Good morning. We are going to start with a song, page 13 of the Pink Book, We Gather Together.
Page 13. I need to get everybody's attention. There's a typo in this. If you look on verse 4, the second line, okay, we gather together to give to each other the strength that we never could muster. It says A1, but it should be alone. Alone, because the line is alone at the end. All right. We don't do this one that much, so I'm going to play just two, one time through. A lot of us know it, but there are some who don't. I'll just do the tune. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Well, I just want to play the tune. We don't sing it yet.
Oh, okay.
I just want to sing it because I might not know it. Okay, and then I'll go 1, 2, 3. Between stanzas, I'm going to slow it down and take a little breather. There's an extra bar at the end. I don't know if all of us understand what that is. So it's I'm going to kick this into it. I don't need to vocalize it. I was going to sing the last. Yeah, a lot of us don't. And for people that don't know it aren't here yet, but they'll show up. I also want us to be really together on this song. So I'll just do the tune over here. I'm just going to sing it. Hold on. I'm going to sing the last two lines. How'd you do the last two lines?
We gather together to build in the morning a house where the Spirit of all can be free. We'll lay the foundation with each and every nation, and it will stand as tall and as firm as can be. We gather together, the form and the substance. This handiwork brought forth shall grow and increase, and all of creation will join in admiration to see the shining wonder of labor and peace. The hand of the painter will capture the rainbow to light up the gathering place with its glow. And here we will treasure with music and with measure the all in all of art and of nature we know. We gather together to give to each other the strength that we never could muster alone. And in this communion we'll dedicate the union, the fellowship of all coming into
appropriate to what Anton is going to be talking about.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a spiritual community, philosophically based on existentialist and feminist principles, dedicated to human liberation and protection of the natural world. We make our spiritual home in the Old Stone Church, which was hand-built for the African American Antioch East Baptist Church more than 100 years ago. We acknowledge that racial hostility drove those African Americans from the area, and we honor them and the powerful history of this place. We also acknowledge that in the 1800s, the Muskogee Creek people were driven from this land, and we support justice for all indigenous people. If anyone has a community announcement, you can bring it up to me. After our minister speaks, I will be reading them all. Do we have any newcomers who are here for the first time or haven't been here in a while who'd like to introduce themselves? Okay. How about birthdays? I know one birthday, and I'm going to come off the stage.
It's May 4th, which is next Sunday, but I'm going to be here. I'll be in Florida.
Okay. Here we go. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear
So we're going to have another congregational song. It's on page 77 in the pink book, a song of peace.
Okay. Over you go.
77.
In between these lines, there's some extra counts.
Cider.
So,
A chair.
anyway, you'll know how it goes.
So I have a couple of announcements. The first one is that the annual book and bake sale will be on June 14th, Saturday this year. So we are seeking donations of books, CDs, DVDs, 8-tracks, cassettes, puzzles, games. So everyone start scouring your house for some of those items. That's right.
Honey, what about art supplies?
No. Okay, so we're going to have a rehearsal for the E-chorus on Sunday, May 11th, 10:30, downstairs, for the new member ceremony. And when is that going to be, Jean, the new member ceremony?
May 11th. The same day.
Okay,
We're
gotcha.
just going to run one song.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So if you have been or would like to be a member of the E-chorus, meet downstairs early on May 11th.
Yeah.
Choreography.
With choreography.
So we need some greeters for May. So there's a sign-up sheet on the rear table. So this is in hopes for a stronger greeting presence. 10:45 to 11 a.m. So you can stand out on the steps and say hello to everyone. Now we're going to have a few words from our fellowship minister, Marcia Mishner.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see your smiling faces, even the ones that are a little sleepy looking. But I appreciate that you decided to come here and join us this morning. It's a nice day. We've had some wonderful rain, and so now it's time to have a little sunshine. I was standing in the kitchen getting coffee when y'all were doing the last song, and I have to say, y'all sounded magnificent. It was great. If you ever, really, you know, sometimes when we're singing, go stand in the back in the kitchen and just see how wonderful we sound. I mean, because that way you're really getting the full thing of it. So I hope that you will take advantage of that sometime. You know, we talk about how important it is to stand up and speak out for what you believe, speak truth to power. And I think that we're seeing that what that can accomplish, because there are some things that are happening that I think are a direct response to the fact that there are so many people out there, you know, letting their voices be heard, let it be known that we will resist, that we will not just let injustice and the kind of activities that are going on right now, to let them continue if we have a say in it. So there are a lot of ways that you can participate. I hope you pick the one that works for you and that we keep it going. All right, great to see you. Have a good week.
Thank you, Marcia. We're going to have 5 minutes of silence, and I will let you know when the time is up. You want to introduce it, Bill?
Well, I've got something written on a piece of paper.
Okay, so this is an instrumental piano medley with no vocals, a little less than 5 minutes long.
And it's a combination of a lot of excerpts. I will tell you what. It will take too long. Here we go.
You have all these different traditions, but they just flow right into each other.
Yeah.
Very brilliant. Our speaker today is Anton Flores-Maisonet. He is the founding director of Casa Alterna, a nonprofit practicing radical hospitality with vulnerable immigrants. Since 2020 alone, Casa Alterna has housed nearly 600 immigrants from over 50 countries in partnership with the Atlanta Friends Meeting and Atlanta Mennonite Church. The organization was recently honored with the first Existentialist Community Service Award. Anton and his wife Charlotte serve as friends in residence at the Atlanta Friends Meeting, where they seek to embody Casa Alterna's core belief: love crosses borders. Please join me in welcoming Anton Flores-Maisonet.
Well, good morning. Good morning. It is good to be here. I'm going to just take this down and put my notes. It's good to be back here. Last time I was here, there was no power. that storm. I do bring greetings from the Atlanta Friends meeting where I reside and where we offer a significant amount of hospitality, although under the current administration really that need for hospitality is diminished, but we have shifted and we have pivoted. And so what I want to talk about over these next few minutes are about some of the pivots that we're doing to try to still live into that tagline that love crosses borders. During the Biden administration, we were one of 8 nonprofit organizations that the city of Atlanta chose to be sub-grant recipients of federal funding to deal with the crisis that was happening with asylum seekers from all over the world, but significantly in numbers from Venezuela that were coming here. And as you heard, we housed nearly 600 guests at the Friends meeting alone for an average of 2 nights as they were making their way to their new land, to their new homes, in hopes of being able to find refuge here in the United States. But when the election happened, I was immediately struck with an ethical dilemma. And that was, how could I continue to have the majority of my budget come from the incoming administration? That funding was based on a reimbursement model, so we had to seek reimbursement, but part of that reimbursement was we had to provide the name and the A number, the identification number of each asylum seeker that we were serving. And I had no problem doing that under the previous administration, but in November and December I was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with the idea of becoming complicit in what I was afraid would happen. And so we made the hard decision. There were only 2 of the 8 organizations that made this decision. The other was Georgia Asylum and Immigration Network. Made the decision that we would preemptively back out of this federal funding, which meant that the majority of our revenue we were walking away from. We would not comply in advance. We chose integrity over dependency. We refused to undercut our mission, although our capacity would suffer, but we refused to undercut our mission by accepting money that would be tied to policies that we knew would only harm people. So when inauguration happened, and immediately we were hit with a barrage of executive orders, we pivoted very quickly. And I had many individuals come up to us and say, can we get involved? How can we get involved? But I also had a group of people that said this, and I understand where this came from. They said, I want to join you in standing for justice, but I work for the federal government, or I'm a federal contractor. In this area, many public health. This chaos that has been going on for these past few months has thrown all of us off balance. Those of us who are justice-oriented, though, are now having to wrestle with how do we be justice-oriented and also wrestle with self-preservation. We used to chant in the streets, and we've been seeing it still. The people united will never be defeated. But we're struggling to figure out how to maintain a unity when even our own self-preservation is threatened. And that's a real tension, and I honor that. But Casa Alterna has always been about small, faithful acts of great love. And in that, I believe there is an answer that can still provide a unity, even though you may not join me in the struggle for immigrant justice. Right now, the need to struggle for justice is great. So what do we do when we feel torn between personal security and standing with the marginalized? Well, I want to pull back and give a little bit of a glimpse from one of my favorite texts of liberation, the book of Exodus. In the book of Exodus, we see a Pharaoh that gets imitated throughout the ages. And I say is being imitated even today. We see a Pharaoh who is a master of manipulation and a master of propaganda based on fear. Pharaoh says, look at these Israelites, they're becoming so numerous, they're becoming so powerful, that one day in the event of war, they will join our enemies. And then he says something interesting, and escape from the land. The first part is all propaganda, made to instill fear. And we live in a time of fear, and fear is a powerful, powerful motivator for giving up control and giving over power and authority to others. These lies about becoming more numerous and more powerful and maybe joining our enemies, we're hearing that about immigrants all the time now. But that last line, and they may escape from the land. There was a little bit of truth in that one. That's actually the fear of the powerful. The fear of the powerful is that there won't be a group of people who can be easily exploited. And so what do they do to quench revolution, to quench any quest of liberation? They enact repressive edicts in the Pharaoh times, or repressive executive orders in our time. But Timothy Snyder, a historian, back in 2022 wrote an article that has become now a booklet. The booklet is called On Tyranny. And he's giving 20 history lessons from the 20th century. Here's one thing that Snyder writes. Most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. Individuals think ahead about what a more repressive government will want and then offer themselves without being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do. I would call those fearful adapters, or I should say Exodus calls those fearful adapters taskmasters. Pharaoh makes the edicts, the taskmasters go on and treat the people brutally and harshly, giving them more labor, making their lives more miserable, seeking to disempower and divide and conquer them. It saddens me to see the number, for example, of second-generation immigrant adults now working for Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol. It breaks my heart to now see local law enforcement colluding and participating in ICE raids. The ways in which people comply in advance, that corporations are ready and able and willing to capitalize on the suffering of people so that we have Stewart Detention Center, one of the largest detention centers in the country, privately owned by Core Civic, gladly taking our tax dollars to now have an overcrowded detention center, including a young 19-year-old that I met just last week outside the gates of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement field office, a 19-year-old Guatemalan woman who was 6 months pregnant, sleeping in overcrowded Stewart Detention Center, hours away from any medical care facilities. But we're paying our tax dollars, and Core Civic is more than happy to comply for the sake of greed. But there is an alternative. There is an alternative to complying in advance. And in the Exodus story, we see this most powerfully in two women who are named. The Pharaoh is not named. We see this in the first act of the Hebrew scriptures of civil disobedience. Shiphrah and Puah, midwives. I would call them midwives of justice. They get a command directly from Pharaoh that says, I know your vocation is to be in that mystical space when life happens when life emerges. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to violate your very vocation. And if it's a boy, I want you to kill the child. It's come straight from Pharaoh directly to them. But they refused. And when they had to go back before Pharaoh, they used the very stereotypes that Pharaoh himself was propagating. They lied, but gave the very same stereotypes. Oh, well, you know those Israelite women, they're so strong, they're so powerful. They just give birth before we even get there. There's nothing we can do about that. There's a modern midwife that's made the press recently. Her name is Judge Dugan.
Yeah.
The Wisconsin judge who decided that she would rather uphold due process over unjust edicts.
Yeah.
And now is, I understand, is still being held. I believe or maybe she was recently released on Friday. I'm confused about that part. But was arrested by the FBI for obstructing immigration enforcement, for obstructing taskmasters. Well, I have gotten to know a group of midwives here in Atlanta. Because I just had this one wild idea. But all my ideas always rely on a small group of people willing to join. You see, I have for a long time seen that we have a displacement to deportation pipeline. Displacing people from their lands because of climate change, because of greed, because of war, because of corrupt governments, leading folks to our desert, being dehumanized in our country, and then when things turn south, detaining them and deporting them. To just continue that cycle. And so I knew that no matter how harsh the administration could become, that pipeline would exist. And that all we need to do is find places where we can stand and try to block that pipeline. Try to interfere with that system. And so I knew that we had an immigration field office and an immigration court right by the Garnett MARTA station. And I have seen for years the number of people that are standing outside that facility. This isn't anything new. But what was new was the decision to say, how can we be midwives of justice in that place? At the gates of ICE. And I say the gates of ICE because I come from the Christian background, and so I'm thinking of the gates of hell. And so any place that is a hell to people, there's an invitation for other folks to prevail against. And so what do our volunteers do? Most weekday mornings we arrive and we stand out there in solidarity with the individuals that are there. We greet them. We call them by their names. We greet them with dignity. We affirm their dignity. And we give them, right in front of this building of ICE and Immigration Court, something that's constitutionally protected, but sure does feel subversive these days. A red Know Your Rights card. That simply says, if ICE comes to your home, they probably won't have a judicial warrant. Therefore, do not open your door. Now, sadly, again, we're seeing increasing number of incidents where ICE isn't even complying with the Constitution, and they're just breaking down those doors or breaking the glass in people's windows in their cars.
Yeah.
And so there's a question about how do we pivot? Well, we give folks their cards about their rights. We let them know that if they're traveling long distances, that the Friends meeting is a place where they can receive free hospitality. But I'm increasingly also to say, but also if you're just ever afraid to return home, and I don't have to say why. If you're ever afraid to return home, here's a blue card that tells you about a place of refuge. Let me give snacks. But mostly what we give is our powerlessness and our presence in hopes that together we can find liberation. Those who bear the brunt of these oppressive systems, and those of us who are just trying to figure out how do we live out our politics? Because that's another thing that Snyder calls us to corporal politics. Snyder says, power wants your body softening in your chair. Power wants your emotions dissipating and getting angry at a screen. Get outside. Put your body in unfamiliar places with unfamiliar people. And that's what our compas, our companions at the Gates of Ice, are doing. So you and I have a choice. And that's a beautiful thing. That regardless of how heavy the world gets around us, we still have a choice. I believe that disrupting oppression demands that not that one person build a massive movement, or not that a large group of people just stand up, but that disrupting and dismantling oppression demands that just a small group of people face their fears together. And if this small group will face their fears together, if it's around immigration, and this small group faces their fears, and it's around public health, and this small group faces their fears, and it's about education, and this small group faces their fears, and it's about due process. Together, we can prove that wherever fear and oppression erects walls, love always crosses borders. Always. So I hope you will thoughtfully, soberly, and in community discern one simple act of corporal solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. And thank you for all the work you do and all the volunteers who help you out. I know there's some of them here in the audience. So we are going to close out with a congregational song in the pink book, page 44, When the Mountain Stood Alone, page 44. And this is Bill picked this out in honor of Earth Day, happened last week.
Yes, I absolutely did. The first three songs, I tried to choose songs that might be appropriate to what Anton was talking about. But because Earth Day was this past Tuesday, we'll do this one. I'd like to point out the words to our first song, We Gather Together, and the words to this song were written by David Arkin. He was the father of the famous actor Alan Arkin. And it's got an ecological theme, so I'll just do the song.
Stand and body your spirit as you're willing and able.
Mountain in the vastness of the sea. banquet from the soft